Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Ask Our Vet. I'm Dr. Kris. It is season 2, week 8 already in our series. I hope everyone's having a great week. Thanks for joining me today. Today we will be talking about one of a veterinarian's favorite subjects, poop. Everything poop. We want to talk about. It's actually, this week is International Pooper Scooper Week. So we thought we'd do a few things and talk about gut health and parasites and all things poop. So hope you, yes, good fish. Thank you for the poop emoji. That's good. Thanks for checking in. Hey, Earth Animal. Yes, Stephanie Dade, right? It's a good thing to start with. Hey, Angel. Hola. It is spring. It is clearly spring. I hope everyone's getting excited just to get outside. We do have a little special guest today we'll be bringing on in just a minute. Hi, Morgan. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, Jen. Yep. Yes. Yay, poop. Poop day today. So International Pooper Scooper Week, created by the Association of Professional Animal Waste Specialists. And they did it to educate pet parents about the importance of picking up their dog's poop. I think, and April is Earth Month, right? So we want to talk about the impacts of this on our planet, which, you know, I think a lot of people really don't think about. But with the advent of COVID, with the advent of people getting out more, hiking more with their animals, going out on walks and things, I certainly, on hiking trails, in my own parking lot, at the clinic, in the grass clinic, have seen a rise in even dog feces, but even bag dog feces that people are bagging up and leaving. And we just want to talk about that and bring some awareness to that today, among a lot of other things. But I think it's, this is an important topic, and, I hope you'll understand why after we're talking about this. Let's see who else is checking in, then we'll bring on our little guest. Hi, Karen. Thank you for checking in. And Pat. Hey, Maureen. Thank you guys for checking in. So I thought we would bring on a little guest today, and kind of goes along with the spring to me. It goes along with this topic, okay? Come here, sweetheart. Come here, baby. I got you. So everyone, this is Winter, okay? Winter is a little 6-year-old Netherland dwarf rabbit, which is actually, look how little, one of the smallest rabbit breeds. These are domestic rabbits, they're not wild rabbits, but Winter is not only beautiful, but really, really snuggly and nice. Look at that fox. I was also supposed to say Winter is coming, so I said I would say that. I'm rewatching Game of Thrones right now too, plus we have the blue eyes, see? So I think that's, but look, I know, Morgan, look how cute, please. Look at that little face, and so soft. But one of the reasons why, and we'll have Winter come out and visit later, right? Right? Okay. Just go ahead. There you go, thank you. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring, besides, how cute is Winter, is that right this time of year, obviously, you're going to see bunnies running all over the place, right? And one of the things that I know from doing fecal tests at my clinic is we oftentimes will do a fecal on a dog, okay? And they come up with a parasite that is not, this happens, it happens every week, if not more, is when we do the fecal test and it comes back, and they'll have a parasite in their feces, in the dog's feces, that's not a parasite of their species. Okay, Eimeria is one. It's a coccidia, but it comes from eating rabbit or bird poop. Okay, so just be aware that when you're walking your dog and you're out and about, there's a lot of rabbit and bird feces around, okay? And especially this time of year where the rabbits are going to be out, they're going to be having their babies, they're going to be, we have wild rabbits that we live near the beach, and they actually come up to our yard every year about this time of year, and they nest and have their little babies, and we have little babies in our yard. We always have to watch out with our dogs and when they're out. But there is a lot of rabbit poop around, and I'm already seeing it. So be cognizant of that when you're kind of walking around, because as we know, a lot of dogs like to eat various types of poop, but certainly rabbit and bird poop are high on that list. Okay. Yeah, Suzanne, a pellet pooper, right? The other thing that's cool about rabbits is, as we go on, and we're going to talk about this, is it's actually normal. Rabbits are, poop eating, the technical term is coprophagy, right? And rabbits do it, actually, it's normal in rabbits. There's a certain type, they have two different, the stuff that we see, okay, that rabbits, the little pellets that we see are what they leave behind, but they actually have two types of poop rabbits. They actually poop a softer little ball that's called a cecotrope, and they actually digest that twice. Okay, so they will eat that, and that is normal in rabbits. All right. Let's see who else is checking in. Hey, Nora. Yep. Hi, Aunt Loretta. Thank you for checking in. Yes, it is. There is, Suzanne. We're going to talk about animals' propensity to eat poop. It is pretty normal across the animal kingdom, but it's something that we want to try to avoid with our domestic pets because of a variety of reasons. Hey, Sarah. Thanks for checking in. All right, so let's start talking about poop. Okay. We're also going to have a giveaway at the end. So if you want, pay attention. There'll be a quiz, a 1-question quiz at the end about something, and we're going to be giving away something. So anyway, thought I'd let you know. All right. So just in the numbers, let's talk some numbers. Dogs produce over 4 billion pounds of waste per year. Think about that, just in terms of the amount of it. All right. And picking up our own dog's poop is a very important responsibility that we have as a pet parent, right? And again, even when you're not at the dog park and people are with you, and when people are looking, they're not looking. Picking it up is very important. I think some people think, well, it's just fertilizer in their own lawn, out on a hiking trail, at the beach. Well, it's natural that, wild animals do it, and so it's natural. But the fact is that it actually can be very, very harmful, both to our animals, to people, and ultimately to the earth, right? And that also is very important, okay? And we're going to get into some specifics on that. I was doing some reading on just how impactful a set of multiple dogs in an area, how impactful just the feces can be on the environment, and we'll get to that. All right. So, what's carried in poop? What can be damaging? Well, the things that are in dog poop. I mean, we have obviously waste products that come out from their food, but there's also a lot of other things contained in it. Okay. Parasites are one, and that's something that we see, obviously, as a practicing veterinarian, I see on a daily basis, okay? And it's not just that our animals are getting this from, are getting infected from wild animals. They can infect and propagate it amongst themselves, okay? So things like, and the things we all kind of know if you've had pets for a long time, the old school worms. My dog has worms, right? Roundworms, hookworms, whipworms, things like that. All things that if they aren't checked for these and they defecate, can actually, a lot of them can hang out in the soil for a long time. Another animal can come up, sniff that soil, and they can get it on their face, lick it, and then they can get infected with it. Okay? And some of the newer things that we're seeing as far as parasites goes is in this area of the country, especially, is Giardia. Okay? Giardia is a protozoal parasite, and Giardia is actually a zoonotic parasite, okay, meaning people can get it as well. So that's something, and the cysts that come out in the feces of dogs can sit in the soil for a long time, and it is something that animals can continually reinfect themselves with, okay? And then we have bacteria we have to think about. Salmonella, E. coli, big ones that can go out and get into our environment and affect us and our animals, okay? There's viruses, there's parvovirus, something that some of you may know about, a deadly diarrhea that can really, really be hard on puppies, okay? So all those things can be hanging out. So that's why it's so important that we pick up our animals' poop, all right? The reason why, it's important on a small scale for our pets is we know that dogs, not only will some dogs eat poop, okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but just the action of them going up and smelling and putting their nose up to another animal's feces, they can infect themselves, okay? So the other part to this is that these things can then run off. So with rains, right, these things can run off in our beaches, lakes, streams, and even our drinking water, right? And so when you have a large amount of feces that's spread over multiple yards, parks, beaches, it's very, very easy for these things to get into the groundwater and and make people sick, okay? Our fish, our waterways, right? So an interesting story about me is that when I was in veterinary school, they had massive rains where I was, and they recommended that we boil our water because they said that, with the runoffs and everything, that there was the potential for infectious organisms to get into the groundwater. And so, I'm 23 years old. I'm like, I don't need to do that. I didn't, and I ended up with Giardia, okay? And, people ask me all the time, they're like, well, how do you know if you have Giardia? Well, first of all, you get tested for it, but the other thing is, when you have Giardia. It can make you really sick, okay? So, that's just one example of how just easily these things can make it into our water supply, right? And it's really, in that regard, it's extremely, the take home today that I'm going to continue to talk about is that it's really, really important to pick it up. And it's equally as important if you pick it up and bag it, don't think you're done there. Don't think that you're done and you could put it next to the signpost on the hiking trail and someone just magically, comes by and does it, right, for you. You want to be responsible and you want to do that. Let's see who else is checking in here. Hey, Dr. Ulrich. Hey, Dee. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Jacqueline. Hey, Barry. Miss you, pal. Hey, Jimmy. How's Castle Rock, Colorado? Yeah, good, Jane. You always want to, right? Yeah, Suzanne, is that true that all the national parks in Canada have banned all dogs from their beaches? That's unfortunate, but it probably, again, is because we had neglect going on and people were just leaving their feces all over the place, right? Yeah, so Jane, obviously, it's a good question about horse manure, and all feces contains, now horse manure there's a lot of bacteria in it, right? And so, with just non-digested grass, things like that. So all feces has the ability to carry, because it's waste product, has the ability to carry any sort of a host of the things we talked about and any sort of host of bacteria. So them eating it can really be detrimental, and it can make, things like E. coli can not just make them sick, not just make them GI sick, but E. coli, and you've seen it when they've recalled things in the human market, E. coli can do things like infect your kidneys. It can make you super sick, okay? So, it really is it's a huge service that you do to everybody by picking it up, all right? Let's see who else is checking in here. All right. So Jacqueline, one of the things, Earth Animal, we're going to talk about some of the natural products Earth Animal has for gut health, because we also are going to kind of message into gut health in a little bit, and talk about how important it is. Since we're talking about poop, we should talk about gut health, right? Specifically, not a treatment for Giardia, but something as an adjunct to help, okay? Things like, some of the herbals, and I'm going to talk about them. Giardia really is something that should be treated. There's a few different ways of doing that, anti-parasiticals that we can use, but there are some things we can use as adjunct to lessen the impact that Giardia has on the gastrointestinal system. Giardia can be particularly nasty as far as inflammation in the guts. It also is something, like I said before, it's probably, of all the parasites that we see, one of the things that I see animals get infected multiple times with, right? Because a lot of times we'll see it in puppies, and then the puppies will go and eat their own feces or another animal in the house that got infected with it, and they can reinfect because they are really hardy, the cysts, these Giardia cysts that they talk about. So anyway, good question, and we'll talk about that. All right, let's see. Oh, you're welcome. Let's see. All right, Angel, what about ringworm? Can dogs get it, spread it? How is it tested for in them? Okay, so Angel, ringworm is actually a fungus, okay? So it's what they call a dermatophyte. It's a fungus. So while they named it ringworm, it's carried on and affects the skin of dogs and cats, okay? Not as common as a lot of different other skin parasites, but we do see it, okay? The answer is yes, dogs can get ringworm, okay? Yes, they can spread it. These, I guess, another story that I got ringworm on my face from a llama in veterinary school that I kept kissing on the top of its head, and I got ringworm on my face. So it does go back. It is another one of those zoonotic diseases, and traditionally we used to do fungal cultures to test for it by using taking bits of hair, but they actually have some easier tests now that we can just take some fur from the edge of what we think is the lesion and send it in, and they have some really you don't have to wait the 14 days to look for a positive culture now. They do antigen tests and things, and you can find out pretty quickly. All right. Let's see, Susie. Hey, how are you, Susie? Yeah, it is really, ultimately, Susie, it is no big deal to clean up after your pets. You're exactly right. The other thing too is when we talk about, sometimes we can fall into a little bit of a false sense of, if you think, well, I bag it up, even how they have biodegradable bags, but you leave them, well, you're still putting it into the environment. So it's important that you clean up, you bag it, and you take it with you and dispose of it, okay? So it does not end up in our environment or end up, affecting any other animals. All right, let's see. Hey, Sarah. How's Florida? How's the weather in Florida, Sarah? Sarah asks, are there any products for rare bladder stones? Paul Raymond is on a special urinary diet. Yeah, so, Sarah, it depends on the stones, right? So there's different types of stones that precipitate out in different types of urine, whether it's acidic, or basic, right? When you have higher pHs, you get a different type of stone than you do with lower. So it all depends on the type they have, okay, on what you would use. Some of the urinary diets actually make the urine at a target, right, somewhere between like 6 and 6.5, 6 and 7, which usually keeps it kind of right in the middle, and you don't precipitate out these stones. Some diets are specific for stones. In other words, they make the urine more acidic if it was too basic, or more basic if it was too acidic. All right, so it does depend on that. All right. Let's see. We had another question here. All right, let's see. Jimmy says, my golden got really sick last year from drinking water from bowl water poured out at a vendor at a farmer's market. Yeah, again, it's, you never know. I mean, one of the things as a veterinarian, obviously you see a lot, so you start to get, when even me, when I'm walking down the street, in an area that has a lot of stores, and you see all those public drinking dishes, that they have out for the dogs. As a veterinarian, you kind of you just take a quick breath or something like that, because there's certain things that can be given from, when you have multiple animals drinking out of the same bowls, right? Or if that water was standing for a while or had some bird feces or something in it, right? It's very easily spread. And I think that's what we're getting at. Just think on just a small level like that, having a small amount of drinking water that they can get sick with, and think about on just a grander scale. Okay, one of the things that I read, and I don't want to get this fact wrong, so I have it in here. And when we get back to the environment, okay, environmental impact of these things, and I'll get back to the questions. I just want to talk about this for a little while. I was doing a lot of reading leading up to this, and just looking at what the EPA thinks, and the EPA is very adamant on how dog poop in numbers can be toxic as like chemical and oil spills, okay? One of the things that I read was just 100 dogs, take 100 dogs with just a few days of feces, okay, from each dog, if that got into a large waterway, could literally shut down a whole ecosystem in a large bay, or something like Long Island Sound, large bay. Just 100 dogs' feces, that if it happened to be all washed in from a bacterial bloom or parasites and things like that. So that's not, when you think about that, there's some dog parks around here that have 100 dogs visiting them, on a daily basis. So when you start to think about the environmental impact, and I think ultimately, like we said, if you always start local and build out, right? So if you think about the best thing to do with your pets and your family and your neighbors, and you build out from there, if everybody did that, right, the impact you can make with something for the world is really big, okay? All right, let's see what else you guys. Yeah, Hope, so Hope says that years ago she got ringworm from a feral kitten. We see ringworm in cats more than we do dogs, okay, oftentimes. And it can go from pet to pet. Obviously, it can go from pet to person or person to pet. But one of the things that feral kittens and cats do is, obviously, that when they're out in the wild, is they can dig in the dirt, and this dermatophytes, right, this fungi, the spores can hang in soil. Okay, so they can get it and then they give it to us. And I've seen a lot of kittens with ringworm for sure. Yeah, Angel, the good thing is, honestly, is that ringworm is pretty easily taken care of, okay? But you can't, remember too, you can give it back and forth, okay? So we can give it to our pets and they can give it to us. Yeah, that's great, Marilyn. It takes a team effort, right? It takes a team effort to pick this stuff up, so that's great. All right, Oreo Pup. Manitoba is adding a lot more paw-friendly provincial beaches and swim areas, even though national parks may be banning pawed creatures. Grand Beach, which is beautiful, and one of the top beaches, got a whole section just for pups last year. Yeah, and look, the thing is, it always comes down to human behavior, right? All this stuff comes down to us banding together and getting together and to make a difference. And if everybody picked up their animal's feces that was out there on these swimming areas and the beaches, then they probably wouldn't close those sections down, right? And so hopefully in this new section, everyone will do that, and a few people won't ruin it for everybody else, right? So I think that is definitely important. And again, by picking it up, we're helping the environment immediately. For our dogs that eat feces, right? What's the best way to prevent that is picking up the feces immediately. So not giving them the chance of turning around and eating the feces and eating the poop. And so not only do you prevent your dog from doing it, but you prevent someone else's dog from doing it, right? So you're helping your own and you're helping others. And why do dogs do this? Well, listen, there are some times where they may have some, and we're going to talk about the importance of gut health, but there may be some things that are off in the gut that can do it, but a lot of times it's behavioral, okay? And so Picking it up is really the best thing to do. One of the things that Earth Animal does have a product, and Dr. Bob has come up with, is the Stop Eating Stool. Okay, and I think it's basically a daily supplement if you have an animal that is doing that, that can replace nutrients, enzymes, things like that for digestive support. So it's a combination of things. Okay, always a multi-tiered approach, right? But picking it up is clearly important, right? All right, let's see who else is checking in. Oh, so Suzanne, I was reading about these things. One of the other things to make things easier at your home, and Suzanne brought this up, is they have a variety of waste systems, okay, that you can use in your own yard. Some are in the ground that break them down with enzymes in them. Some are above ground, okay, but they are. I think that's again, if they're maintained, Suzanne, I think it's a good idea. Okay, dog parks. I don't know with the amount of feces from a dog park how that would work. I don't know what the sizes are. I mean, obviously they look in it as opposed to putting it in a receptacle and then taking it away. All right, but there are a variety of options to make it a little bit easier for us. Okay, to make it easier for us to get rid of this stuff. All right, let's see who else is checking in. Alexandra. My 8-month-old puppy has consistently inconsistent stools. She has been tested with a GI panel, was on metronidazole a month ago, and all parasite tests, 2 of them in the last 4 weeks, have come back negative. Advice. Okay, so here's a couple questions, Alexandra. One is, did the puppy have parasites younger? Okay, battle with Giardia or something early. Now they may be all negative. I'm just wondering, when, 3 months, 4 months, around that age. Okay, what are you doing diet-wise as well? I would like to know that. All right, what are you feeding? So if you can just check back in. So Janice asks, my Sheltie just started eating his poop. Would he be lacking something in his diet? Well, Janice, like we talked about a little earlier, I think, that the answer is potentially yes. With the advent of, I've seen an uptick in animals that are, dogs specifically that eat poop. Okay, and I've seen it steadily kind of increase over my career. And I think one of the possibilities with it is, we have our foods now. The pet food industry has obviously come out with a lot more rich diets, okay? And it's possible that, one of the reasons dogs will eat cat poop, all right, and kind of the theory is cat poop is very high in fat. And so, a lot of that the cat may not use and may come out in the poop. And anybody who's got dogs knows that apparently cat poop is a delicacy, but the thought is because, and dogs love cat food too because of that. So, it's possible that a lot of the poop, these guys may still have a fair amount of nutrients in them because they've extracted what they need from it, but there may be some left over, and that could be driving it. Some of it is definitely behavioral. Some anxious dogs will manifest with poor behaviors, and that may be one of them. It can start out as something and then turn habitual. That's why the number one way to prevent it is picking it up, right? And, it's hard to, and we've all had dogs that have had some degree of poop eating, right? Myself included. And we always have multiple dogs in our house, and that can be where it gets challenging because if you're out in the yard with all 3 of them and they're all pooping at the same time, you're running around trying to pick them up before you have the other dog can get to them. So that's not always the easiest task, but it is the most effective, okay? Hello, John Stratton. How are you? Thanks for checking in. So, Alexander, you're talking about, so for your food, you're doing canned, all right, ID right now, and you're going to fresh turkey from Spot and Tango. Okay, and, listen, there are a number of reasons. Alexandra, I know they did the GI panel, and I assume that was all negative. B12 levels, things like that were okay. Some of these guys can be, can have insufficient enzymes in their pancreas, okay, that don't digest certain things. They can also have just, similar to, they can have some levels of sensitivities in their gut to certain proteins or certain, food items, okay. Did you say that is it loose all the time? Does it go back and forth? All right, so I think you had said consistently inconsistent, which means sometimes, and one of the things I always tell people is make sure when your animals have when they're like that, where they have, they may have just kind of inconsistent poop. Sometimes you can tie it to something, and if they're on a food, you have to remember the key is you want to keep them on the same. So say you're on turkey. Well, you don't want to then give beef treats, right? Because now they're eating two different things. So you want to make your treats always consistent in animals that may have GI sensitivities. You want to make sure that everything they're putting in their body and that they're eating is consistent and congruent, right? So you don't want to do a certain type of protein for treats and a certain type of protein for food and different ingredients, and we give and never people food too, especially obviously in ones that have sensitive guts. Yeah, Tasha, apparently the litter box is a buffet. And believe me when I tell you, we struggle with that in our house, and trying to keep the dogs out of the litter box. It's not remotely easy. They do love rabbit pellets, that's for sure. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, now that we've kind of hit home, we know we know that we want to pick this up. We know why on a personal basis for our own pets, and also for the earth and the environment, and obviously all the other animals running around. So we know why we want to do that, right? Let's just talk a little bit quickly, because I think it's important whenever we talk about this is to talk about digestive health and why digestive health is important, okay? So, like we were just talking about, where you have this consistently inconsistent, it's, what can your dog's poop and what can it tell you about their overall health, right? Well, our GI system, right, we call it, you have these microbiomes, right? Your GI system is a microbiome. It's a collection of microorganisms, okay, that all play a part in your overall health. But for us and our animals, 75% of your immune system, your whole immune system, lies in your gut. So if your gut microbiome, all right, is off, it's going to throw the rest. It's going to throw the rest of your body off. Okay. Literally, your gut health feeds everything from your mental outlook. All right. They've done some studies recently. I think at University of California, I read one where they're starting to actually put a link to gastric health, gut health, and anxieties in dogs, right? So if their gut is off, it can make them more anxious. And we know as people that if you don't have if you're not eating the right foods, they may taste good at the time, but you feel terrible later, right? Both mentally and physically. So why would it not follow that dogs' behavior and anxieties could be linked a lot of times to their own gut health, right? So it is important that we try to maintain as healthy a gut as in our animals as we can, because literally, if you have a dog that has a healthy gut, you will see it in their attitude, their skin and coat, how they move around, their energy, their sleep patterns, really everything. So it is really important. So it's important to have them on a balanced food. Obviously we talk here about wisdom, which I love. Okay. You see it behind me. If you haven't looked at it, go to the website, look at it at Earth Animal, read what's in it. It is a wonderful food. It is extremely balanced, and it really, and we're even doing more and more work and studies on microbiome in dogs, and we'll have more to share with that a couple months down the road. But we're always looking at that because it's so important for our little furry guys that their gut is healthy, and we know that. There's other things that you can do, obviously gut-wise, things that, and someone had asked the question earlier about Giardia. So yes, I do believe in treating Giardia and you can do an integrated approach, right? There are some of the classic dewormers. We use Panicure for them now typically, but you can do things like add in no more runs, a herbal remedy, right, to relieve some of that inflammation and things and calm the stomach and the digestive system. So that's also a good one. All right. And just take I'm always a big fan of taking the integrative approach, right? All right, let's see who else is checking in here. Back and forth. So Janice has a question. Changing a dog from grain-free to a grain kibble diet, will that upset their tummy at all? Always a good question, Janice. So let's talk about food changes and diet changes. It doesn't matter what you're going from and to what, okay? Grain-free, kibble, raw, what you're changing to. What does matter is the fact that you should always do it slowly, okay? The key in any diet change, and people make this mistake and it's not intentional. I get it. You're getting towards the end of the end of the food you have. You get a new food and you switch over. The key is doing it slowly. I always recommend at least 7 to 10 days. And what I tell people to do is literally you start with 90% of the old and 10% of the new food. And over the course of that 7 to 10 days, you just you increase one and decrease the other. I think that is always important. And in our sensitive, in our dogs that we know are super sensitive and can react and are prone to having diarrheas, okay, that you make it longer, 2 weeks, 3 weeks even. I've done that with some of my own. I've had dogs that have had GI sensitivities that I've had to switch over and done it, for very gradually. I think that's really important. All right. Good question, though. Absolutely a good question. All right, so let's talk about what our takeaway is today. All right, I think as always, you guys have asked great questions. Have been really an integral part of this, and the takeaway today is just have to pick up and our pet's feces, whether it's in our own yards or whether it's in a park or a beach. And you want to take them with you. You want to take it with you. I know for a lot of people, it's, maybe the kind of thought of kind of walking around with a poop in a bag is, I know everyone's not like veterinarians who just, tend to handle a lot of gross things in a day, right? A lot of urines, a lot of poop, things like that. But it's just, you bag it up, you take it with you. It's our responsibility. It's really important. And don't think someone else is going to come along and just pick up after you if it's not enough to get out to the beginning of the trail and put it down near the sign. Or just, I think people think too, I will tell you, at my vet clinic, often when I come in the morning and I'm there early, I will find 2 or 3 bags of poop just kind of hanging out in the parking lot or by my front door. So they probably figure, oh, he'll get it. And that's fine, but again, it's really important to pick up after. It's our responsibility to us, our pets, and the earth, right? And it's, again, extremely important. I don't think a lot of people think about it. So Suzanne, you're talking about, you're welcome, Janice. So you have an older dog and she has bad gas, room clearing bad gas. Suggestion. Well, so again, if she does have that, you would suggest that was something about that she's either missing something that she's on is bothering her, okay? Maybe it may need, you may need a food change. You may need to add something in for gastric health, okay? Probiotic, prebiotic, things like that, something that can help populate the GI system. She also may be just acting sensitive to something that's in her current food, so you may have to do a food change. So it's something to look at. The first thing is, if she's doing well otherwise, just getting her on a probiotic is not a bad idea, okay? And keep an eye out down the road for some other offerings from Earth Animal. There may be something coming that may be really good for GI health. Just saying. Just keep an eye open. All right, Tasha has a question. It's crazy how much nutrition can influence size and frequency of poop. Ever since we started feeding Wisdom and Raw, their poop is only half the size and only once a day. Yeah, and you know what, Tasha, that, when, and you have to realize where that comes from, right? The more that there is things like filler and other things that don't need to be in there, non-digestible fiber, things like that, it can affect all that. What you want is, you want that. You want that everything that's going into them, that they're extracting as much nutrients and everything, because it's just simple and it's good for them, and there's not a bunch of other junk that they can't process, right? So, I mean, that's fantastic. We always, one of the things, people ask me all the time, they're like, what is an ideal poop for my dog? Okay, what should it look like? And while there's no one across, I remember a food company once had dropped me off an actual sign of about 25 different pictures of poop for me to show people that they could point to see. I've never used it, really, because I don't want to freak people out by throwing 25 different pictures of poop out in front of them. But there's not one size necessarily that fits all, but I kind of refer to it as kickable, right? You should be able to pick it up. It should be formed. It should not be obviously too rock hard, all right? But it should be formed and firm enough where it's easily picked up with, a bag over your hand. That's an ideal stool for a dog. Yeah, so Alexander, you can integrate probiotics. Sometimes, obviously, if you've got something going on in the gut, when you start them and you jump in with a large amount, it can bother them at first, right? So like anything else, I always recommend, if you're going to introduce something, introduce it. I'm always one to start low and build up, right? And so that's really with everything. I'm a good form. You know what, Jennifer, different forms are okay. Different forms are okay. A treat light, a liquid, depending. And again, you want to get something that you can, I usually will even start oftentimes under what they recommend and then build up slowly, all right? I think that's a really good way to go. All right. The other thing, before we get to the quiz question here, the other thing that I wanted to say is that I believe is very important is, with your annuals at the veterinarian, I think it's really important to bring a poop and have your stool checked by your veterinarian, okay? Because that way we will be, and these are outdoor animals, okay, specifically and primarily, but any of your animals that go outside that can be that obviously will be out there and exposed to these things. The earlier you can catch parasites and other things, the better off it is for your animal and the better off it is for other animals in the environment. So I think that's a very important thing to remember is they may sometimes forget to ask in things, but just as a rule of thumb, when you go for your annual, please bring a poop with you because it's good to make sure that they're clear. And our fecal tests now are so specific. They weren't nearly as specific 20 years ago, but now we have a bunch of antigen tests that are run, so they really do a good job in catching any sort of parasites. All right. All right. Oh, Alexandra, yeah, you know what, Alexandra, I'd be happy to talk to you. I don't typically do them as I don't typically do them as I haven't done them to date, but I would be happy to talk to you. So Alexander, email me at Kris, Kris, at earthanimal.com, okay? Send me an email with your info. All right. You ready for the quiz? Here's the quiz. So we're going to give away, and this one's for U.S. viewers only. Sorry, this one is. We're going to give away a 3-pound bag of wisdom today, all right? And here is, first one that answers on the thread wins. What GI, gastrointestinal parasite, did I get when I was in veterinary school, when I was told to boil my water? Does anybody remember? So what parasite were we talking about? So Jennifer, I did get ringworm on my face, but there you go, Mickey. That was the original. So I do think Mickey got it. Giardia, I believe that was the first one. Jennifer, good guess. That was the one I got on my face, but the intestinal parasite I got was Giardia. And Dr. Ulrich, you can't answer that question because you were there when you were in my class. That's kind of cheating. You're in my class when I came down with it. So, congratulations. I do think it was Mickey. Congratulations, Mickey. 3-pound bag of wisdom. All right, everybody. That's it for today. I thought maybe we'd break out. Could we break out winner again for the end? Oh, I didn't remember that. Stefan, you had it too? Yeah, that was quite something, wasn't it? Not fun. Not fun at all. All right. Oh, sorry, Angel. What, Angel? We're gonna have more. We'll have more giveaways. All right. Let's have winner come. We're gonna come here, sweetie. I don't want the giraffe to free. Come here, boo boo. I know. Come far. Say bye to every. Okay, easy. You're okay. Okay. Come here. I know it's a little scary. Come here. There we go. You're okay. Say bye. Say bye to everybody. So pretty, huh? Okay. All right. Go ahead. Good job, pal.